Hello and welcome for yet another amazing episode of Connecting the Dots. And we have an array of wonderful panelists today to talk about what's travel. Yes, what's travel got to do with veganism. For those of you who are vegan, know that it's really important for us to know what are the options, when we're traveling, for us to eat and for us to, experience and enjoy this world compassionately. And for those of you who are just dabbling and new to this ethical philosophy and this amazing nutritional philosophy, we have an amazing a panel today, some amazing people who are doing some great work and are curating a wonderful festival that I encourage every one of you to just pack your bags and be there for. Before I let the cat out of the bag, let me actually bring these amazing panelists on stage. Welcome, Zach from VegVoyages. We're going to talk to you. Hello, we're going to talk to you about this amazing festival that you all are curating, and you're joining us from different parts of the world. So I'm the host, Nivi. I'm based in the United States at this point. So Zach, I'm going to give you the opportunity to share with us about yourself as well as about other panelists, today that we have. But we're going to start, before we talk about the festival, we're going to talk a little bit about VegVoyages. I'm really curious to know about your work. And when I was looking up VegVoyages, it says VegVoyages organizes off the beaten track tours focused on cultural immersion, local interactions, eating lots of mouth-watering local vegan cuisines along the way. Well, what inspired you to create VegVoyages, and tell us a little bit about your story to create vegan tours? Zach.
Thank you, Nivi. It's a bit of a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. Animal rights and environmental protection has always been a passion of ours. And as we got older, trying to help people understand each other more also became a passion of ours. As you know, people have so many misconceptions and totally off, I would say, preconceptions of each other, of other cultures and communities that are labeled very different from their own. And I mean, we were brought up with it. We were taught it from when we were kids everywhere, in our schools, houses of worship, in our families, communities, you name it, everywhere. And this very divisive thinking sadly continues very well into our adulthood. So not only did we also come from the cycle, of course, but we also would see this very frequently in the work we used to do. We used to work and coordinate for film and media units. What we did is originally I got into the film business naively thinking that I could change the world, like a lot of us did. And we didn't, of course, and it just became about the business and compromising what we believed in. And pretty much every step of the way in the end, I would say. So 18 years ago now, actually, as of this month, 18 years ago now, we burned out basically on the film business. But one thing that we still liked actually was helping to bridge the cultural gaps between the foreign and local units and teams that we were coordinating for. And so we decided, hey, we're not getting any younger. So let's start doing something we can believe in again. And that's in line with our animal rights and environmental beliefs. So we combined our love of storytelling and bridging cultural gaps with our passion for animal rights and environment to create VegVoyages. I'm sorry, that was a bit long. I said I was going to try to keep it short. So starting with 3 trips in India 18 years ago, we now do over 27 trips a year, vegan trips a year and in 9 different countries. And actually there's 2 more countries that we are just completing work on, which is where I am right now. I'm in Cambodia. So we're just completing the story here. And these first trips will also be running by the end of the year. And also with Kuntal Ji, we'll be having the Everest Base Camp, one of a series of vegan trekking trips that Kuntal Ji will be overseeing and leading, starting with the Everest Base Camp one towards the end of the year, this year as well, which we're really excited about. So now we're a team of 5 friends from 4 different countries and 4 different faiths. And our tours are kind of most commonly described as community-based storytelling meets travel, meets veganism all in one. As we work with local communities to create the stories, which then the trips are actually the stories or the trips that our guests go on, actually they live the stories that we actually create with the communities.
Wow, that is just so inspiring that your guests, your tourists get to live the story as the itinerary unfolds. And I can't wait to be on one of these, Zach. So tell us, yeah, how did all of you guys meet? I'm going to bring Kuntalji, Shova, Rita, and Shristhi has joined us, and Suresh. I'm going to bring all of you guys on stage. Zach, please introduce us to your friends, to your colleagues, to your team.
Okay, so it's, first, how did we meet? It's actually quite a much quicker story, though it could be quite long. But it was, to sum it up, it was through vegan activism, actually. So we all met because we all have a common goal and a common interest in protecting animals and promoting veganism. So over the years, we've all met and connected through vegan activism. And whenever possible, we try to get together and work on projects together. That being said, that is what the Himalayan Vegan Festival came about, is all of us coming together and saying, hey, this could be a great event in Nepal and Bhutan. And so we said, let's do it. And it's been growing and growing and growing. And even with the postponement because of the pandemic from April to September, it's actually even getting bigger. So, which we'll talk about more later. But I'm very grateful and honored to have the chance to introduce some of the fantastic team and behind the Himalayan Vegan Festival, which is on the panel here. And they have done an extraordinary job in putting together this festival, which I'm super, super excited about. So would you like me to introduce each person all the way through? I'll make a quick
please make a quick introduction, and and then obviously we'll have questions for everyone, and that will offer them an opportunity to share their story as well.
Okay, so I'll start with Sureshji, who also happens to be one of the partners in VegVoyages. Suresh is a vegan activist. He's the chair of the World Vegan Organization for Nepal and co-founder of the Nepal Vegetarian Association. He actually has a master's degree in Sanskrit and Asian philosophy as well. And he received the prestigious gold medal in philosophy by Nepal's first president. So he's a very extraordinary, talented, and passionate guy, and a great friend. Excellent, a great friend. Then there's the very talented and extremely hardworking Shova. She's an animal rights advocate, a vegan food blogger, and a lawyer by training. She's also a co-organizer at Kathmandu Animal Save, where they've been advocating for veganism and targeting Nepalese youth to get active for animals. So trying to really get the youth engaged in protecting animals. And of course, there's the incredible Kuntalji. And I don't say that lightly when I use the word incredible, because he was the first vegan to summit Mount Everest. And doing it once wasn't enough. He did it twice. So wow. Incredibly twice. So through his trekking, he works to dispel myths about nutrition and a plant-based diet. I mean, if you could be on a plant-based diet and you can, summit Everest twice, that says something. He is equally passionate about raising awareness about the health benefits of veganism for both people and the planet. So an extraordinary and incredible guy, friend, as well as athlete. Then there's a very dedicated Shristi. She works passionately as a key player in animal welfare campaigns for several leading animal rights organizations in Nepal, where she works through. They do interventions, animal rescues, research, education campaigns, and advocacy to create protective rights for animals. And last but definitely not least is Rita Ji, who is a very popular FM radio host in Nepal and is also a no-holds-barred independent voice for animals, who is not afraid or shy, I may say, to tell it as it is, which is great. She's a great voice for those without a voice, and is a great inspiration to fellow activists. And she also makes, I just want to say, because you had a pictures of momos earlier, she makes some some out of this world amazing vegan momos, some of the best vegan momos I've ever had.
Thank you. So. We'll talk about that. Yes, for sure. Well, Zach, thank you so much. I see that Shova is back. We'll add her back to the stream. Unfortunately, her camera is not working, but maybe she can hear us, and we can carry on the conversation. But my next question is to Suresh. Really would want to and love to know more about what is the Himalayan Vegan Festival, really? And so, Suresh, the floor is yours. Please tell us more about this amazing festival that's coming up soon.
Thank you for giving this opportunity to share about the Himalayan Vegan Festival. The Himalayan Vegan Festival is the vegan history in the Himalayas. I would like to say that the Himalayan Vegan Festival, landmark festival in the heart of the Himalayas, seeks to inspire people to reduce animal suffering and environmental degradation by following a plant-based diet. And this festival, organized by local vegan activists and supported by vegan activists from all over the world. And this festival is family friendly, educational, and fun and free festival. Everybody will attend this festival, and this is 100% free festival. Then we are trying to make this festival result oriented programs and festivities there, so people will learn about the techniques, tools, and how they have to implement, and we'll teach about the practical things. People will learn, and they will implement in their home, their kitchen, and their communities, in their school. That is the festivals we are trying to make result oriented. Then it is going to be a family friendly festival, educational, and 6 days festival, 3 days in Kathmandu, Nepal, and 3 days in Bhutan. And in this 6 days event, celebrating the health, environmental, and animal welfare benefits of the plant-based lifestyle. In this festival, there will be free movie screening with the directors, and free cooking classes and workshops, free wellness classes, a 5K mini marathon hosted by 2 of the world's leading vegan athletes.
Wow.
Then vegan health, fitness, and fashion workshops will be there. Then there will be music, and there will be vegan products, local vegan products, and popular vegan organizations also will be there. Then we will have Himalayan and international vegan delicious food
Wow.
stalls
Great.
will be there. Yeah. Then this festival supported by government also. We are trying to work with the government. So government representative will be there. They will learn about the veganism. Then that will be easy to make the vegan friendly country. That is we are trying to do. Then there will be 100 plus speakers and 250 plus international delegates and thousands of local attendees there. Then please save the date. Festival dates are Kathmandu, Nepal, September 15th to 17th, and Thimphu, Bhutan, September 18th to 20th.
Yes, thank you so much, Sureshi, for sharing all of that. I can't wait to be there. This is just promising to be like, as you've described it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of education, and there'll be food and music, and I think that in this era of global pandemic, we need people to be able to feel optimistic and confident, and hopefully I'm aware that you guys have had to change the dates a little bit, so now it's going to happen in September and instead of the spring, but let's hope Omicron's all gone, and COVID-19 offers us a window of relief when all of us can get together and celebrate veganism. I'm going to ask Shristhi the next question. So what can people expect if they attend the festival? Shristhi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes,
All
we
right.
can hear you.
I think the one thing that people can expect is actually to get pleasantly surprised, because most of the people that I've known, or people who know about veganism or basically have heard of veganism, vegan lifestyle, only kind of assume it to be very plain and boring, including like food or the things that we do or things that we use. So I think this festival will basically give out everything. It won't hold back. From like, just like Suresh said, from food to activities to everything, from speaker sessions to documentary screenings, different kind of projects and programs like workshops, speakers from all over the world who are extremely impressive and have done a lot of work for animal rights and animal welfare and liberation. So I think what people can really expect is to learn and also to unlearn things, like unlearn things that they've heard accumulated throughout the years about using and abusing animals, and how we can live like a cruelty-free life with so much option and so much of color and so much of vibrancy. So that's something people can really, really expect from this festival.
Yes, and that is super interesting, and and much needed, because people have a certain perception about veganism, about vegans, and the kind of food we eat, and that maybe we're eating a salad or lettuce like all day, and that is simply not true. This festival is going to offer them a window into our very colorful world, and our colorful menu, and how vibrant it is, and how spiritually elevating it is. So thank you so much for sharing that. Kuntal, I'm going to bring you on stage. I wanted to ask you about your journey as a mountaineer, your love affair with mountains. Tell us, like, how did it start? When did it start? And how did you embrace that and veganism, and like, tell us about your journey. And I'm just floored. I'm in awe of the work that you've done. So thank you for being with us and sharing your story, please.
Uh, I'm going to start with a little bit about my vegan journey. And just like how your show is named Connecting the Dots, for me, it was all about connecting the dots. Being born and brought up in a vegetarian family, I always kind of connected with the animal rights cause, or to be very frank, with compassion. And as Rita ji was mentioning about karuna, that is, an emotion of empathy. All of those were there. I always connected with that, which is why I never ate meat, or which is why I never consumed any animal. But then sometimes social conditioning such that you can't actually see cruelty behind dairy, or you can't see cruelty behind eggs, or cruelty behind leather. And I didn't see that, because every time I would walk into a grocery store, I would just be buying a bottle of milk, or I would just be buying a leather jacket which was, with a nice price tag on it. Just felt, oh, this is just available in a store. How can this cause harm to an animal? Or how could even this be a skin of an animal? I just never connected the dots there. But then I moved to the United States, where I was doing my master's, and one of my roommates was an ethical vegetarian. And he kind of started asking me a lot of these questions. Why are you wearing a leather belt? Why are you wearing a leather jacket? Why are you buying ice creams with eggs in them? And all of these questions, they were constantly in my mind. And I was kind of, a little bit defensive in the beginning, like, why are you asking me these questions? What's the problem with these things? And then he slowly kind of started sharing with me a lot of videos, mostly about the horrors of the dairy and the egg industry. That is how it kind of started. And initially, I was not very receptive to it. I didn't even see the videos. I'm like, no, this can't be true. And then when I saw the videos, it was like my entire world came crashing down, kind of a deal for me. I'm like, here I'm thinking of myself as a compassionate person who stands up for the animals, and suddenly I realize I'm no different. I am contributing to the abuse and use and slaughter of animals as much as everyone else. And that was kind of the trigger point where I started going and researching, what can I do? And I think the bare minimum I realized I could do was I control what goes in my mouth in terms of the food I eat, and what goes on my body in terms of the clothing I wear, or the cosmetics I use, or just the daily items I use. these two things, as a privileged person, was completely under my control. I could have definitely changed these. And as I started researching more, I realized there's people who call themselves vegan, and I said, this is it. This is, what I want to be. And this was an overnight decision. The moment I said, okay, I need to do something about it, there were two ways. Either I just stay in the world of apathy, which I had been anyway for many, many years, or I actually take a stand. And for the first time in my life, I actually took a stand for animals and I went vegan. And I have to say that it opened floodgates of changes in me, because once you connect with oppression towards something, you suddenly start connecting with oppression towards all other practices that I was part of, may it be homophobia, or may it be sexism, or may it be all the other toxic things that I was knowingly or unknowingly kind of partaking in. I connected the dots, and I'm not going to say a lot of this was an overnight journey. It took time, and I did my reading, I did my introspection, and over a period of time I was able to kind of move away from these practices, or partaking in this oppression. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I am a work in progress in that sense. And as I went on the journey, I discovered my love for mountains. And I remember standing in October of 2010 in front of Mount Everest, and I said this story so many times. Like, I can remember so vividly right now. I was standing, and the last rays of sunset were hitting Everest. Every other mountain near Everest was in the colors of gray and blue, but Everest in the middle was burning golden in color, as if someone had lit all the snow on fire. And when I saw Everest that way, I fell in love actually. And I promised myself that I am going to come back one day and I'm going to climb on the top of this mountain. And believe me, I may say a lot of things. I may say things like, hey, Everest helps me become a better person. Everest helps me become a better version of myself. All of these things are all in hindsight. But when I saw Everest, it was like an internal calling, a calling that I could not say no to. I had to go and follow that calling. And I'm not going to take a lot of time, but one of the first challenges that I had in the calling was everyone, like tons of people in the mountaineering community and my friends and my co-climbers, everyone saying you can't do this as a vegan. And I was always like,
Really?
why is there a problem with veganism? How's this even matter? And they're
Mm.
like, but no, you need to eat meat, you need to eat dairy, you need to eat eggs, you need to eat cheese. How are you going to keep yourself warm without a leather jacket or a down feather jacket? And I'm like, wow, I am going to climb this mountain as a vegan, or I'm not going to do it at all.
Yeah.
That is the kind of mindset I had, and that's the mindset with which I began the journey. And Nivi, believe me, if I have to write down the list of top 100 challenges I faced on Everest, veganism would not be 101st challenge on that list. So I can tell you for a fact that a plant-based diet was not a hindrance from any angle. On the contrary, it actually helped me become a stronger climber, not just from the diet that I was eating, but just from a mental edge that I got. Imagine you can climb with clear conscience,
Yeah.
sleeping in the night, knowing that no animal has to suffer or die for your dreams to come true. I think people kind of, don't realize how much mental power that gives me, or how much edge that gives me when I'm on the mountain. That guilt free, you are there, just focus on your dream and knowing that you're doing it for the animals. I think veganism was never a challenge.
Yeah.
Maybe a small challenge from a gear perspective, but from a nutrition perspective, it was never a challenge. And the whole mindset that veganism or plant-based diet is nutritionally deficient is just 100% myth. I can
Yes.
say that.
Yeah, yeah. So, Kuntal, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm just so inspired. And as you took us through this journey, I had goosebumps, because as someone who was not a vegan before as well, and majority of my life, I've I've consumed dairy, and not even understanding what's behind it, because there because a lot of these products are neon washed with advertising and packaging material, and we just can't see it because it's so indirect, and especially for persons of South Asian origin, where vegetarianism is extolled, and it's even part of our scriptures. We're told we don't necessarily know if that's an interpretation issue or whether it really is in there, but that's for another conversation. But Kuntal, I'm really curious. Were you a non-vegan mountain climber before, and then you became a vegan mountain climber, and if so, then what was the difference that you observed in your mental and physical ability to conquer peaks and mountains and nature?
Uh, I was not. I went vegan in 2002, and then I started climbing mountains only in 2010. So I didn't go through that transition of being a non-vegan athlete to a vegan athlete. But as I said, that for me, as a vegan athlete, having all this pushback, I remember when that statement was made that you need to eat meat or you need to eat dairy. I mean, as someone who's an engineer and someone who looks at things very scientifically, I was like, kind of, shouldn't it just be you should need to eat protein, you need to eat fats, you need to eat multivitamins and minerals? And I'm like, the plant world is abundantly filled with all those things. So if as long as you are eating a balanced diet, a smartly designed diet, it should never be a hindrance. On the contrary, as I said, my diet helped me recover a lot faster.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
as someone who has been training for the last 12 years, I know that you have to train really hard, but then you have to recover and be able to train harder and keep repeating this over a period of long duration. And so when your diet is kind of aiding your recovery and complementing your overall life, and then you are able to recover and become the best version of yourself, I do think that veganism contributed to that quite a bit. I'm not going to stand here and say, hey, I ate a broccoli and I became a superman. Probably in part, yes. um, but of course there's a lot of training and there's a lot more nuance involved, but I can definitely say that anyone who wishes to climb mountains or who wishes to achieve superhuman feats, they can very much do it as a vegan. If I can, if someone who used to be 110 kilo unhealthy software engineer, I was nowhere close to being an athlete. I was like literally an anti-athlete before I went on this journey. So if someone like me can go on this transformation and climb Mount Everest not just once but twice, I can say that every human on this planet can achieve the biggest dreams of their life without any animal having to suffer or die.
That is just such an inspiring message. Thank you so much, Kuntal, for sharing your story. I'm going to, since you mentioned that you were in the States and you were studying, and this is where, courtesy a roommate who obviously cared about the animals and cared for you to brought this message to your life. I'm going to bring on, Zach into our stream and to talk a little bit around, the differences in the animal rights and the vegan movement in North America and in South Asia. You've had the opportunity and the privilege to see both of these and experience both of these worlds. Tell us a little bit about that, Zach. You're on mute, though. You're going to have to unmute yourself first.
Okay, sorry. That's a very good question. You know what? One point when you bring that up, there's one thing that immediately comes to the top of my mind. And though there's a lot of great similarities between both movements, in South Asia, Southeast Asia, and in the States. But the differences, there's one I wish that would or wouldn't be there, whichever way we're looking at it. And that's actually the fragmentation within the animal rights and vegan movements. And sadly, that's something I've seen consistent both in North America as well as in South Asia. And I wish there would be a lot more genuine support and working together within the animal rights and vegan movements, within a same city, a same country, around the world, activists, movements getting together, joining hands. But unfortunately, the fragmentation, and I really want to bring that up because I can't I can't really kind of, focus on that enough, in the sense that we really need to start working genuinely together more wherever possible. And I think that's a big thing that's missing within our movements. There has been some ground on that, but still the fragmentation is there. And that's actually hindered the growth of the animal rights and vegan movement, I find, from my experience and from what I've seen, both in North America and South Asia. And I think the world has been reminded that we do really need to genuinely work together, not just in the animal rights and vegan movement. Over the past 22 months, now more than ever, that we need our actions, our reactions, and our support for each other actually can make a huge difference. And we have to stop. We have to change our thinking. And I hope to see that also in the animal rights and vegan movement more. That it's not just about me, my organization, or we could say my country of 30 or 330 million people, but we have to look at things really real, not just in words, but as a planet of almost 8 billion people who cohabit it with many, many, many more other living beings. And I think we've even seen that directly over the past 22 months, how important that is. So why I wanted to say what's the differences, this is the one thing that I'd like to bring up, that we got to put that fragmentation aside, and everybody's got to start coming together more. Is what I'd like.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing that. And the need for collaboration is ever greater at this point. We have so much content come out, so many documentaries. The other day, I was watching a documentary that was narrated by David Attenborough, and Sir Attenborough was talking about how planetary boundaries have been breached, and throughout his career, he saw biomes, that were flourishing, and they were vibrant, and they were so rich with biodiversity, and over a period of time, and he's been around a long time, and he says that now when he visits the woodlands and lakes and these biomes, he just finds the earth dying, and if we're not united at a moment when our home, the only home that there ever is, versus all these structures that we keep quabbling and like fighting over, if the earth is gone, we're gone. And if we're gone, honestly, the earth will carry on forward, and probably will be better off, without us. And there's a part of me that feels so. Zach, the reason why I asked this question to you is, in addition to the point, very valid point about collaboration and the lack thereof, we need definitely more of it, is also like, the structure of the animal agriculture and the animal industry, and the differences between the United States and South Asia. When we look at these, Central Valley CAFOs, right? Huge operations. You see the picture on the screen. And when we look at the typical South Asian dairy farm, which is like cooperative, small, entrepreneur-led. I was reading somewhere that 12% of India's population is engaged in some form or manner with the dairy processing industry just by itself. We're not even talking about leather or other adjacencies that frequently are, people don't even associate, and they don't connect the dots, as Kuntal was telling us. So given these differences in what and who we're up against, as a vegan activist, as a vegan entrepreneur, what do you think are the differences in fighting this good fight, between, how the situation is in the US and who we're up against, what we're up against versus in South Asia? Because the South Asian story is like, an Ivy League case study of poverty alleviation and international development by offering, quite frankly, a living wage to people.
That's a tough one, and that could be a very long conversation. So, I think one of the biggest things, and I don't know if this is actually is what you're exactly asking for, but one of the biggest things is misinformation, and getting real information out there, and both in India as well as in North America, as well as in Nepal, the information that's being given by certain industries, certain companies, corporations, and the government, agencies within the government, is often incorrect or not telling the whole truth. Yeah. And they have the means and the resources in both places to be putting that out there. And so that is on both sides, that's what we're often fighting against. I mean, like even what Kuntal Ji said, that when there's not, where's the connection of what that leather jacket is or the leather shoe is, and what suffering came with that, or with milk, or with, you know, like it's a glass of milk, it's a bowl of ice cream, you know, and but that's the same problem we have in I mean, very similar, that we have obviously in North America too. A lot of people, you know, how many times have they actually seen a living cow? You know, and if you're in the cities, you don't really see them. I mean, and so when you go to buy that packaged meat, you're not knowing, hey, what really went into, that's a living being there. You know, what was the process for that to be there, and how much suffering that had. So, but those are both consistent. So these are similarities, but going up against that is the same problems we're facing. We're facing government because the government, what the government's doing, what they're promoting, what regulations they are. They subsidize a lot of animal agriculture in both areas, you know, and then we have the massive amount of money that is behind these companies and corporations or cooperatives or whatever it may be, that we're going up against, and then all that political ties and that political you know, connections around that, which can make life very difficult, obviously, for animal rights activists or anybody wanting to get out the correct information. But so I say on what we're up against, it's very similar, both in it's very similar as far as kind of from a broad spectrum of what we're dealing with. Now, the ways we go about on trying to get the correct, you know, the real information out there so people can make, you know, their own decisions, educated decisions. There's different methodologies to that, some similar and some very different because of different cultures and what have you, and what we're, you know, what kind of untruth we're trying to true, if that makes sense, you know, if we're trying to, yeah. So did that answer your question, kind of?
Well, yes, and you know, it's an unanswerable question, right?
Yes.
In a way,
Yeah.
because it's so complex, and
Yeah.
and just by way of a dialogue, there's just so
Mhm.
much insight that, you know, we're hoping that our viewers will get, because you
Mhm.
have an insight of working and interacting with cultures on
Yeah.
both in both of these corners of the world.
But just as a small thing, just that one kind of little difference is, and many vegan activists in India will say this. It's you know, you'll have people that are non-veg, easier to convince on the vegan argument than vegetarians in
Oh yes,
many cases.
oh yes, totally.
You
I
know,
agree with
so,
you.
yeah,
Yes,
where
yes,
you
exactly.
wouldn't have this so much in the States. When someone's vegetarian, it's kind of a little bit easier to get, you know, that they'll open their mind more to the
Yes.
idea of being vegan and take that extra step. But for in India, as you well know, that you have the conversation of a plant-based diet with a vegetarian is sometimes much more difficult as far as how receptive they'll be than with a non-vegetarian person. So,
Yes,
and those cultural differences are definitely there.
absolutely. You know, and as a researcher, and I can definitely say that the insight is that the underlying motivator for vegetarianism is very different, and it's super unique in South Asia. You know, and within specifically within you know, Hinduism, given that there are certain religious connotations to it and there are mythological connotations to it, and people sort of grow up with using dairy in not just from a consumption, you know, internal nutritional consumption standpoint, but also its ritualistic participation that dairy has, versus which isn't the case clearly for you know, vegetarians in North America, because then it's almost like incrementally you're becoming aware of cruelty towards animals, and that it's the last give, right? And then you sort of like fall off at the point of when you're vegetarian and you're that much closer to veganism, and you don't have that additional layer to deal with. So spot on, yes, and it's a critical conversation to have, but a very complex one for sure.
Yeah, and that's why I don't mean to interrupt, but just kind of connecting the dots on that. The like when we showed at the Vegan India conference in 2019, we had Cowspiracy there. And then we were talking to other people that weren't necessarily attending the conference, because some of the people at the conference were more, they're kind of have an open mind to it. But then when they saw it, they say, oh yeah, that's really bad. But you know, our cows in India, they don't go through that. Or we're, you know, it's like, oh, that's a Western problem. This is how it's done in the West.
Yeah.
That being said, full circle, premiering at the Himalayan Vegan Festival will be the equivalent of Cowspiracy for India, done by Indian filmmakers, activists that tackle full force as far as what the dairy industry really is. All the information they don't want people to know about or talk about. And so we're really excited about that film premiering at the festival. And it's a feature film, and I've been kept up to date on everything. And it's going to be really good. So
yeah, I have an inkling what this film is about, but that's not our thunder to steal, right? Yes, exactly. Can't wait to hear more about it. And
but it's making its world premiere at the festival, the Himalayan Vegan Festival.
Yes, absolutely. So that's yet another reason for our viewers to get hold of their tickets and figure out. And there's lots and lots of information on the website about this biggest plant-based event ever in the Himalayas, and for everyone to hold these dates on their calendars and join, because there's lots and lots of reasons for us to be there, to understand how animal agriculture really is not the future and veganism is. I see Rita back with us. Zach, I'm going to bring Rita back on stage. And Rita, welcome back. Unfortunately, yes, we lost you earlier, but I want to hear more about your fantastic radio show and all the amazing work you're doing in Nepal.
Okay. I'm a radio program president producer since last 2 decades, more than 2 decades, I think. So right now I'm running a show named Amritam Gamaya. It means from darkness to light. So it's informative program, morning show, but it's directly connected to veganism or animal rights and all. But somehow I always my voice regarding these issues, veganism, animal rights, and our animal law guidelines of our country. So people can people can understand about what is animal cruelty, what you should not do in our country. Previous radio, so it was sponsored by my own organization, NGO, Animal. I'm one of the executive member in this organization. Our main objective is to implant Karuna in people's heart. It was the main aim. That's why we named it Karuna, means empathy.
And we're gonna bring one of Rita's colleagues. Yes, Shova. I'm gonna bring you on stage. I have a question for you on feminism and ecofeminism, and it's a big word, it's a big concept. And so what does this word mean for women of South Asian origin? Is it even a thing, like as you do vegan activism, in your part of the world? And what might be some other vocabulary that is more appropriate instead of using these words, or you recommend that is the appropriate way to go? Like, how do you talk to women is what I'm trying to ask.
So the conversation regarding ecofeminism and like animal rights or veganism is somewhat missing here in Nepal. Although Shristhi is really active about talking about it, bringing it forward, but while we do outreach through our group, and what I've observed is that we have acknowledged that there is a pattern that the women are more empathetic, women are more compassionate, and we have even observed in our own community that women who raise non-human animals, they are less likely to eat them because they rear them as their own children, and so they avoid eating them, they avoid seeing them killed. So we have observed this pattern, but however we are not able to interlink it and bring it in the out front. we address it within our community, and we try to approach it in outreaches through like saying like, you are a female, you go through the same emotions, like the glass of milk, how does it get, why does a cow produce a glass, why does a cow produce milk, like you're a female, you have a son or daughter or children, and you know what is the process. So maybe you could interlink with that. We try to approach it through that method, that they could find some kind of connection with the female, the feminine thing. So that is how we are approaching. However, the term ecofeminism is not like addressed openly, that I would say. But I think like Shristi, they would explain it more better. So I would like to know from her.
Yes, absolutely. Let me actually bring Shristi, back on stream, and let's have this conversation, ladies. Because it's really important for, I guess, for women to connect the dots. Because a lot of the sentient beings on the planet that are being exploited at this point in time are, mother cows, their mother hens, their mother pigs, and others as well. Shristi, look forward to hearing your point of view on this.
I think the concept of ecofeminism is definitely, like Shova said, it's pretty much new. Although the thing about many contexts in Nepal is like all these labels that are being used, like ecofeminism or many more for that instance, are not recognized because these are like Western labels, right? But the thing is, the practice of ecofeminism has been going on for a long time in Nepal. There are many women who actually practice it. Although there has been very strong disconnect, even like in the sector of conservation, where people are, especially even women, are working relentlessly in the path of addressing climate change, biodiversity loss, species extinction, and so forth, and even deforestation is a huge outcry. But when they are asking the audience to change their lifestyle, very few talk about not eating meat or dairy.
Wow.
And that's something very interesting I've found. And I've asked them, I've had this conversation with many of my friends who work in the conservation sector. And I asked them, why aren't you talking about that? Because that's the number one, like, very easy thing that one person can do without changing the system, changing self. And how one person is actually acknowledging the lifestyle that one is leading, that is leading to these kind of, outcomes. But this is something that's a huge disconnect. For instance, like in Nepal, around 89% of people are engaged in agriculture. And within that percentile also, like 90% are women. And through all these disasters and everything that's happening in terms of climate change and whatnot, the women and children all over the world, just like all over the world in India and in Nepal, mostly in Southeast Asia, where this is much more prevalent, is that women and children are the ones who suffer the most. And because of this reason and this reason only, this kind of thing has not been addressed. And that's something which I find very, very interesting, because last time I was in this program where we were talking about ecofeminism, where I was asked to give a really long speech about it. And I talked a lot about being vegan and vegan lifestyle, why it's not only about just about food or not eating meat. It's not only about that, it's also so much more. And because ecofeminism is such a strong thing, because I am like one of my mentors is Dr. Vandana Shiva. Yeah. So, and then I have had like so many conversations with her, and I think she's the one who basically opened that avenue for me, the whole path of ecofeminism, when she was here in Nepal a couple of years back. And then throughout these conversations, I've seen these issues like lurking up every day, where basically the women are suffering, because like Shova said, women are the ones who are raising these animals. They are the ones who are basically raising their families and working in the field more than men.
Right.
But the whole issue of ecological disaster, the whole issue of like lacking of empathy and compassion, it's not being addressed. In terms of animal rights, just like Shova said, like a cow, everything, all the plight that the cow goes through is not being addressed by a mother. And that's something that's a very strange disconnect, even among feminists, like all my friends who are feminists who work for women's rights like so strongly. When I have this conversation, I said, isn't it the same? Like, isn't the whole concept of feminism, how can the whole concept of feminism be complete without talking about the most abused female in Earth, like in this universe? I mean, it's absolutely, for me, it completely baffles how they are not being able to connect it.
Yeah.
But yes, the whole concept has been moving. There is a shift. There is a shift where more and more people who are working in conservation sector especially are kind of realizing it, about the whole concept of gender issues in climate change and climate justice, for that matter, and indigenous movement. So there is a shift happening. It's pretty slow. I mean, slower than how we would like to be, but like just like any other movements like veganism and all, it's happening. It's happening pretty slow, but yeah, I do see change happening. I'm very hopeful.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that, Shristhi, as well as Shova. My question to you guys is that as you design and curate the Himalayan Vegan Festival, what are some of the levers for, clearly there's a need and there's an opportunity to talk about ecofeminism, or however, to sort of enroll and bring more women into the fold and get them to connect these dots between climate justice, food justice, gender justice, and so on. How do you think this festival would offer you guys an opportunity to move that aspect of our movement forward?
So the festival has different panels and sessions talking about different issues. However, we do not have a session dedicated to ecofeminism. We could like connect with people regarding these issues in like while we are social networking, while we are talking about this issue regarding the dinner, or like we could talk about this issue even if there is not a space in the panel or session. We could always bring this issue up, and we could always talk about it.
Yeah, I think we've had this conversation before with the whole team as well, and I've also kind of put this forward, like these are the issues that need to be included in the festival, because I think it's a huge opportunity for everybody to actually talk about these issues. And when we talk about these issues, we need to talk in a holistic perspective. If we're talking like one strong approach, it's not going to succeed, like it's for sure. And because everything is so interconnected so seamlessly, that's why we need to at least tell our side of the story. We need to tell how these things are connected, because so many times, so many people, they really have not made that connection until they've actually heard it from somebody, until they've actually been an audience of something that's happening right there in front of them. So I think definitely there are many, many ways that we can actually bring this thing together, and which we need to, because without the whole concept of ecofeminism, this whole movement of empathy, of this whole movement of compassion, it will not go forward as on the path that we wanted to kind of move ahead. So definitely, for sure, we're actually creatively trying to figure out to curate this whole festival to work around the issue of ecofeminism and feminism as a whole, and not just part of the big picture.
Right. Thank you so much, Shristhi. And now that, the software allows me to get Rita back on board, I wanted her to be a, part of this, conversation that we're having around veganism and ecofeminism. Rita, you spoke about karuna, right? And karuna is such an important, you talk about implanting karuna in the hearts and minds of people, and through your radio show and through your role and contributions towards curating this festival, what is your perspective on the enrollment of all more women into this movement?
Yes, as Shristhi and Shova said, that a woman is more compassionate, more empathetic. So I think women.
Unfortunately, I've actually lost her again. You know what I'm going to do? We're at time. We're on the hour. I'm going to add everyone to the stream, including Sureshji. Rita, I'm going to try and pull you back into the stream. And if it's stable for you. Do you want to give it a go again and share with us like some of your thoughts on this subject? And if it's not stable and we're not able to hear you, I would just like to offer an opportunity round the table to everyone, and maybe we'll end with Zach, talking about what is your message, what is your main message, why should people pack their bags and plan to be at the Himalayan Vegan Festival, and why should the world go vegan? So if you can just share very quickly, around the table. We'll start with Sureshji, and then Kuntalji, go over to Shristhi, Shova, Rita. If your connection is stable, we can take you on after Shova, and then we'll end with Zach. Sureshji.
The Himalayan Vegan Festival is the first biggest plant-based event ever in the Himalayas. That's why everybody, all the people have to come in this festival. And Nepal and Bhutan, Himalaya region is the vegan-friendly destination, vegan-friendly places. Kuntanji already mentioned about the mountains. Vegan people likes the nature, and you can see the mountains, natures, and amazing Himalayan cuisine. That's why you have to come here. And this is the land of Buddha. This is the birthplace of Lord Buddha. So peace begins from Nepal, Himalaya region. So you have to be here for that. And we would like to announce veganism from the Buddha's birthplace. So you have, because of that, you have to be here, and you will get lot of different kind of vegetables, fruits, grains, all things in the Himalaya region. That's why you have to be here. Then you have to raise voice about veganism, animal rights, all the, even Shristhi ji mentioned about feminism. We have to raise the voice from the Himalayas. Himalayas is the tall, like highest place in the world. So if you raise voice from here, then people will listen. That's why you have to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sureshji, for that amazing thing. We have to learn about veganism from the land of the Buddha, from the birthplace of the Buddha, and rise to wisdom. Kuntal.
The reason why I am going to be at the Himalayan Festival is to just eat some awesome food. That's why I am going.
Yes.
And that's what, I have to, invite everyone to kind of, come at the Himalayan Vegan Festival. But on a serious note, no, whatever Sureshji said, I think great food and a chance to be in the Himalaya, chance to be in Nepal, chance to be in Bhutan, visit this part of world which has really, really delicate climatic conditions, especially impacting the glaciers and climate change and all of these things really matter in this part of the world a lot more. So I think, as Sureshji mentioned, standing on top of the world, talking about veganism and spreading the vegan word, and I think lots of panel discussions from where we can learn a lot more and grow our understanding. And as I think Shristi ji was mentioning earlier, that unlearn and relearn, or unlearn and learn actually. So lot of opportunities to come out here in this part of the world and hang out with fellow vegans, fellow animal lovers, and fellow compassionate people, and just have fun for 6 days. I think if you're planning a vacation this year, probably this should be your vacation for this year. And as we discussed earlier in the conversation, COVID willing, we all will gather, and it's a gathering to celebrate veganism, but it's also a gathering to hopefully contribute back towards animal rights and animal liberation.
Yes, absolutely. Very well said. Shristhi.
In addition to echoing what Sureshji and Kuntalji said, I think this is a movement that's taking Nepal by storm as well, the Himalayas by storm as well. So I think everybody should come to be the catalyst to this movement, to support and to see what everything is about, to actually see what's being done in local way, in a sustainable way, how things are changing and things are changing for good, and to be an audience to that. And that itself is another part of the journey to actually come to the Himalayas and, like Suresh ji just shout it out from top of the world.
Yes, thank you so much, absolutely, for that. And Shobha and then Rita.
So I would like to welcome the non-vegan people to Himalayan Vegan Festival, particularly for panel discussion on relevant topics like climate crisis, environmental problems, and then pandemic, then our own health and everything. And there will also be practical workshop guiding non-vegans to how to transform into a plant-based diet. And there will be fun activities such as food stall, vegan product stall, and there will be fitness activities, yoga, meditation, and more, document screening, fashion show, and we will have sessions on alternative agriculture, reducing our waste, recycling, and everything. And so I want to invite non-vegans to come with open mind, with intention to learn, and to those vegan people, I want to invite them to connect with like-minded people, and let's learn together to do effective activism. Let's stand against injustice against animals. Thank you.
Absolutely. Effective activism. That's the key word. Thank you so much for that, Shobha. Zach.
Everyone actually said it so beautiful and nicely. So, but I do want to add two things. I look very much forward to the panel discussion and workshops that Shristhi ji, Shova, and Rita are going to put together on ecofeminism. I think those are going to be some a great panel, and possibly we can also have some workshops on that. I look forward to those. So I know no pressure. So.
well, ladies, maybe we can join our hands together and we can,
Yes,
curate something, in the spirit of collaboration. Absolutely. All right. Well,
and the next thing is Nivi. We hope to see you there as well. We hope to see you.
I can't wait. I've been to Nepal and I've been to Bhutan, and unfortunately, that was during a time when I was not yet a vegan, and I can't wait to, like, one of the biggest things on my bucket list is to revisit all the beautiful places in the world that I've been to, but reintroduce myself and those places to me in this new spiritually compassionate, ahimsa led lifestyle that I've discovered, as you guys have, and as so many of our viewers have as well. And that reintroduction is really important because as we go through life, we create memories, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to create memories for people by curating vegan tours, and now this festival, and hopefully those memories don't have to come at the expense of another's life. And that's the beautiful work that you all are doing. I thank you from the bottom of my heart to each one of you to made time, and tech issues notwithstanding, Rita, we've got you back, but we're running out of time. But I look forward to continuing this vital, critical conversation, and thank you to everyone for connecting the dots, because and for helping people connect the dots, because this is exactly what festivals and vegan tours are all about. Thank you for your hard work. I know we have a beautiful promo that I've been dying to show to our viewers. We'll end with that, but the festival is in September. I encourage everyone watching this, either live or a recording, to consider planning for it. Be there for the biggest plant-based event ever in the beautiful Himalaya.
Namaste.
Naso Pyabulla Rashidele.
Namaste. Please listen. You want to hear some great news?
Welcome to the Himalayan Vegan Festival, the first ever in the Himalayas.
दक्षिण एसियाको सबैभन्दा ठुलो vegan महोत्सवमा यहाँहरू सबैलाई स्वागत छ.
We are personally inviting you to join us on this journey.
No matter your age,
ethnicity,
religion,
and dietary preferences,
everyone is welcome here
to experience the Himalayan Festival,
largest plant-based event ever in Nepal, in Bhutan, in the Himalayas.
on top of the world.
An animal welfare talks.
Health and fitness.
All under one roof.
This is your festival, this is my festival, this is our festival.
All of ours.
So let's dance and sing, learn and enjoy.
And eat a lot of great food together.
All plant-based.
All vegan. And all super tasty.
आउनुहोस् हिमालयन vegan महोत्सव सँगै मनाऊ.
Come join us.
We will see you here.
We'll be waiting for you.
Namaste. Himalayan Vegan Mahotsav, not to town hola.
Be a part of Himalayan history.